Hello everyone. I'm here with one more game in the Grandmaster series, that is Indian Grandmaster series. So that is I'm working on one of the games of our third Grandmaster, Pravin Thipsey, one of my role models, and I really like him a lot. So in 2013 December, I have won a tournament in Hyderabad. There he was the chief guest. So that's earlier also I have seen him in Mangalore, where he used to play those Mangalore Open tournaments. So that is it was really awesome moment to see him while playing a game, and when he was a chief guest in the tournament prize distribution ceremony. So whenever I see him, so I used to get inspired by his uh, what we can say, passion for chess. Okay, so uh, I got a chance to speak to him during the prize distribution ceremony of that Hyderabad tournament, where I finished first in that tournament. So that's where I was really happy on that day. All right, so we'll go ahead with the game. So as usual, I have chosen one of his games in which he played King's Indian Defense. And in this game, he shown us how to play against fianchetto variation of the King's Indian. Like some of the ideas he used, so they are really instructive one. And I was struggling to develop the Queen's bishop, that is C8 bishop, to prop it square. So in this game, he's shown us how we can develop that bishop, followed by how we can bring out that A8 rook into play. So that method I really like that method. So I'll use that idea in my future games if someone plays fianchetto variation against me. All right, so let's start the game. Game started with knight f3. This is against Mihail Marin. So he is famous for his book of Grandmaster preparation, English opening. Okay, so knight f3, d6. Our beloved Grandmaster started with the first move d6, c4, g6, d4, knight f6, transpose to King's Indian, g3, King's Indian fianchetto variation, bishop g7, bishop g2, castling, castling for white, knight b d7. This is one of the interesting ideas, knight b d7 followed by e5. Usually, Kasparov normally plays this line. So I was working on Kasparov's games sometimes before, where I was just checking what Kasparov will play against fianchetto variation. So most of the times Kasparov played this line only, NB d7 followed by e5. Knight c3, e5, e4, and here pawn c6. This is the normal continuation for this line. b3. Mainly in this position, in my opinion, white player used to play rook e1, or maybe h3 followed by bishop e3, something like would have come. But b3 is, in my opinion, I think it is one of the sidelines. Okay, pawn takes d4, knight takes d4. See, after you play e5, if your opponent doesn't play d5, how to play such positions? This is one of the greatest examples for that. If you are playing King's Indian Defense from black side, you capture on d4. After opponent captures it with the knight, then you can play rook e8. Sorry, knight c5 is also an idea, but rook e8 first. Direct knight c5, maybe b4 can come out. After h3, now knight c5, putting pressure on e4 pawn. Whenever a black player takes on d4 with e into d4, so most usual idea is to put pressure on e4 pawn with the pieces. Rook e1. Here black is playing with semi backward pawn. This is semi backward pawn actually. Okay, so white's pawn majority on the king side versus black's pawn majority on the queen side. So this is the way we continue. After rook e1, bishop d7. This is the idea I was speaking about in the beginning of the video. Usually, I was not developing the bishop to d7 in my early years. I used to develop the bishop to e6 and where knight into e6 was coming. So that's why this is very good idea actually. Please remember this. Bishop d7 after bishop f4. Now um, he is not defending the pawn on d6. He is just playing queen b6 with some tactics on d4. Probably now if bishop into d6 means mostly knight f into e4 can come up. Knight into e4. Again knight into e4. Now there is a threat on capturing d4. And there is a threat of capturing on d6 as well. Probably white can play bishop into e4 and queen into d4 can. After queen into d4, bishop into d4, rook a d1, attacking the bishop, and most probably you can just move the bishop to some better square. Position is equal. Then after you play the bishop away, then white will support the h3 pawn. Then you can just move your bishop on d7 from the exit of the rook, and you can just continue. That's fine. Maybe, probably this variation would have continued. This is my analysis. So that is not happened in the game. So white player didn't capture on d6. White player played bishop e3 back. Then black is not worried about any this queens. Oh, sorry. Queen is in the same line of bishop. White black is not worried about that. He just brought the rook out. This idea I was speaking about. Bring this c8 bishop out. Bring a8 rook to d8 and drop back the bishop to c8. That is the idea in the King's Indian. So please, you can use this idea if you are playing King's Indian. Okay, rook at d8. Now queen c2, bishop c8. This idea, right? I was speaking about. Now rook b1, queen c7, rook b d1, and here came a6 first, f4, queen a5. Now there is a okay. There is no threat in fact now. Okay, bishop f2, h5. After white plays queen to b2, now tactics is available in this position. Please spot the tactics. Take few seconds to think, and please spot the tactics. Okay, probably you might have spotted it. Now here, knight takes e4 because of there is a pin from bishop to queen. b4. Okay, this is an intermediate move, so it doesn't matter. Queen c7, bishop into e4, knight into e4. Knight into e4 means c5. This is the whole idea behind playing knight c into e4. The moment when white queen came to b2, white queen came in the same line of the black bishop. So black used this idea. Okay. After c5, queen d2, capture on d4. Of course, you have to capture. Once bishop into d4, then queen into c4. You are winning the pawn here, and white is having 5 pawns and black is having 6 pawns. Knight f6, just play bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, and bishop takes h3. No need to defend your rook. You can just sacrifice the exchange because white is having 4 pawns, black is having 6 pawns. So if white player captures on d8, that's okay for black. Black can just capture back with the rook. With the 2 pawns and bishop versus rook, so that is very good compensation for the exchange. So queen into d6 is like using tactics, and black is not worried about that and just captured on a2 with checkmating threat. So white played rook into e8 and black played rook into e8 back. Still checkmating threat is there. So white played queen d2 and queen e6. a strong position with two extra pawns, but there is an opposite bishops on the position, so you have to be aware of that. Queen in t6, bishop in t6. Now comes king f2. If white exchanges rooks, just going for pure opposite color bishop endgame, probably that's risky for white because black is having two extra pawns. So black can capitalize them and black can convert that advantage into win. So that's why white is trying to keep the rooks on the board. King f2, king h7. Here he used very good idea. So I mean black player or grandmaster. Rook d6, bishop g4, bishop e5, and here he planned to play pawn f6. That is the way, so that he executed like this. Sorry, rook e6. Now rook d8. Here rook d7 will lose to rook into e5, I guess. Correct? Yeah. So rook d8, pawn f6. This was the plan I was speaking about. Bishop d4 and pawn g5. Pawn takes g5. Rook e to check first, an intermediate check, because to force the opponent king to last rank. Okay. Yeah. Then you are capturing it. Rook b8, and here just support the pawn. Rook h8 check, king g6, rook g8 check, king h6. Look at the idea. How he's not going to f5 and not trying to go to e4, or he's trying to play the positions. This kind of things we have to learn from top grandmasters. Okay, so okay, from all the grandmasters, not necessarily top grandmasters, maybe from even better players also. Yeah. So here he just kept the king on h6. After rook check, he went for offer the rook exchange. Because of two extra pawns, so probably this opposite bishop ending is winning for black. So that's why white is not exchanging it. Black played pawn h4 because white was planning to play rook f6 check. Pawn takes h4, pawn takes h4, rook g8, then king h5. King g2, now bishop e6, rook e8, bishop d7, rook g8, rook f7. He's just trying to play good moves and trying to ask his opponent what you are planning to do in this position. So you are already having two pawns down, and you try to use your ideas. Let me plan with respect to my resources. Okay, that's what his argument. So bishop e3. Now rook g8 is threatened. Sorry, rook g5 is threatened. First bishop c6 check, king h2, then rook f5, stopping rook g5 check. Now rook g7, and here comes rook d5. King h3, bishop d7 check, king g2, rook d3. Now rook g5 check, king h6, and discard check may not be a problem, right? Yeah, may not be a problem. King f3, pawn h3, king e4, rook d1. At some point, he can even consider playing pawn h2 and h1 queen, but maybe currently it is not available because of rook check and rook into pawn. Bishop f4, rook e1 check, king g2, sorry, not king g2, king f3, bishop c6 check, king f2, rook e4, double attack on f4 and b4, king g3, rook into b4, rook h7 check, king g6, rook into h3. Maybe here rook takes, sorry, not rook takes, rook b3 check followed by rook into h3, followed by getting the king into the queen side, maybe winning, right, because of two extra pawns. But he's not going for that variation. He just went for king f5, rook check, king e4, bishop c7, king d3, rook c5, bishop e4, king f4, pawn b5. king e5, rook c5. Sorry, it's rook c4, bishop d6, capture the rook, followed by a5, and here black player resigned. So this is definitely a winning position because now b4, b3, b2, b1 can follow, or maybe connected pawns will move on and could definitely win the match. This is the game which played in 1997, in which Thipsey became Grandmaster. So with my, as I already told you, I respect him a lot. So with my respect, I'm ending this episode, this video. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in next video from the game of fourth Grandmaster of India. See you.